Saudi Arabia is famous for its tough weather with very little rain. Most of the country is made up of deserts and dry lands. The land has never been very green. But something surprising is happening now. The desert is quickly turning into fertile farmlands, which is shocking even scientists. What's causing this change? Watch this video to find out. Before we talk about why the farmlands are growing in Saudi Arabia, it's important to know how dry the country used to be. We've always thought of Saudi Arabia as a place with extreme heat, dryness, and lots of deserts. And that's true. It's home to the world's biggest desert, Rub al Khali, which is 650,000 square kilometers in size, as big as a whole country. Did you know that Saudi Arabia, the 14th largest country globally covering an area of 2.14 million square kilometers, doesn't have a single permanent river? That's right, no rivers at all. But wait, there's more to the story. Saudi Arabia faces a serious lack of rainfall, historically receiving less than 150 millimeters annually. This scarcity of water has led to a vast portion of the country being extremely dry. In fact, until the late 1960s, only 0.5% of the entire country, roughly 400 square kilometers, was considered fertile land, mostly located in the southwest region. So, how did the people survive, especially in terms of agriculture? Well, before there was a significant increase in farmland, the citizens relied on small fields where they grew local crops. Anything that couldn't be grown locally had to be imported. Imagine, only narrow strips along the coastal lines were suitable for planting, and the crops were limited to items like dates and vegetables. This posed a significant challenge for a country as large as Saudi Arabia. The limited fertile land meant that the citizens had to make the most out of what they had. They focused on cultivating small plots with crops that could withstand the arid conditions. This approach was sustainable to a certain extent, but it also highlighted the country's vulnerability when it came to food production. Now, let's talk about the amazing oil dam, a very important part of how Saudi Arabia expanded its farmlands in a surprising way. Even though the country didn't have much water, it really needed more to grow food. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia has the most oil in the world. It's like they had something special, a gift from God. This became clear in March 1934, when they found a lot of crude oil in a dam oil field that went really deep, down to 1440 meters. This discovery meant that Saudi Arabia had about 17% of all the known oil in the world, which was estimated to be around 75 million barrels. With all this oil wealth, the Saudi Arabian government believed it could do more. That's when the incredible journey of rapidly expanding farmlands began. Jumping to the present, Saudi Arabia is now like one of the modern seven wonders of the world. Before, it used to rely on importing food, but now it's a big exporter of wheat, dates, dairy products, eggs, fish, poultry, birds, fruits, vegetables, and even flowers. How did a mostly desert country go from importing food to exporting it? What's the secret behind Saudi Arabia's success that we might not be aware of? The transformation of Saudi Arabia's desert into fertile farmland isn't magic. It's a result of a mix of luck and intentional efforts by the government. So what exactly did they do? Let's explore the strategic steps and fortunate events that led to turning a desert into productive land. One major factor is the significant investment in technology. The transformation required advanced equipment to turn the barren desert into fertile farmland. Saudi Arabia's agricultural landscape has changed due to substantial investments in programs supporting modern farming technology and rural infrastructure. Leveraging its abundant oil resources, the Saudi Arabian government took proactive steps rather than resting on its laurels. They directed the nation's wealth towards creating fertile grounds for their people. Additionally, the government implemented strategic plans to ensure sustainable agriculture. They focused on water conservation and management, crucial in a desert environment. The introduction of efficient irrigation systems played a vital role in making the land arable. Moreover, Saudi Arabia prioritized education and skill development in agriculture. They invested in training programs and research to enhance farming practices, ensuring a knowledgeable workforce to drive the agricultural transformation. In the early days of their investment journey, the government worked hard to set up places for making dairy, meat, and chicken food. By 1985, the country became really good at producing its own things, like meat, milk, and eggs. They didn't just make enough for themselves. They started selling a lot of agricultural stuff to other countries. Around the same time, a ton of milk was being made, about 1,800 gallons from each cow every year. People were also starting to build fish farms. both on land and in the sea. These farms made seafood, and shrimp in particular became a big deal for Saudi Arabia. They sold loads of shrimp to Japan and the USA, especially the black tiger kind. Thanks to the Saudi Arabian government's hard work, the country went from buying wheat from other places to selling it to others. Silos for wheat were built in 1978, and by 1984, they had more than enough wheat. Places like Posi Hall and Kazim now produce about 3.6 tons of wheat per acre. They also grew other grains like barley and millet. The country got so good at making grains that they had to slow down to save water. All these efforts made Saudi Arabia successful, not just in taking care of itself, but also in selling lots of food to the world. As farming and transportation got better, more fruits and veggies were grown. Things like watermelons, grapes, citrus fruits, onions, squash and tomatoes became really popular and were sent to other places. This boost in farming also meant more local food for people in Saudi Arabia. Dates, in particular, became a big deal, with about 500,000 tons of them being produced every year in different types. Many factories in the country started making tons of dates. Saudi Arabia became super active in helping other countries by giving them food. They became the second biggest giver of food aid in the UN. It's a good time to be in Saudi Arabia now. The government in Saudi Arabia did a lot to help local farmers. They gave them interest-free loans and technical support. Farmers also got cheap water, fuel and power. They could also bring in materials and machines for farming without paying taxes. The government even gave cool benefits to foreign investors, like no taxes for up to 10 years. The rules for investing that were made in April 2000 gave even more rewards. All of this happened because the Ministry of Agriculture in the country worked hard and made good rules to help local farmers. Saab, which is the Saudi Arabian Agricultural Bank, also helped by giving loans and subsidies to farmers without charging any interest. This helped the farmers get the most out of their farming. In 1972, grain silos and flour mill organizations were created. They bought and stored wheat, built flour mills, and made animal feed. Modern highways were built to connect the farms to big markets. The government also did big projects that needed a lot of money to help farmers. This helped the economy to grow in different ways. The government also gave money for research to make new kinds of food crops, increase how much crops can grow, and find ways to stop pests from harming crops. Farmers and scientists from the country worked together in research centers at different universities. Everyone helped. Water is very important for farming, but Saudi Arabia didn't have much water. They had to be smart to make farming work. Here's how they solved the water problem. They used aquifers. Saudi Arabia isn't as dry as people thought. They dug deep tube wells in good places for cities and farms. This gave them an old but good source of water. Now aquifers are one of the main sources of water for the people in Saudi Arabia as they try to make more green land. They had to use luck and brains to succeed in farming with not much water. Once upon a time, this country found a smart way to use a lot of seawater. They had a lot of land along the coast, from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea. So the government decided to turn seawater into clean water that people could drink and use in their homes and industries. They set up something called the Saline Water Conversion Corporation, SWCC, and it ran 27 places that turned seawater into more than 3 million cubic meters of clean water every day. Later on, they came up with a cool idea to deal with not having enough water. They started recycling water that people used in their homes. They built special factories in the big city and other important industrial places to recycle water. Now they use a lot of this recycled water to water the farms. This helped make more water available for the land, and it was good for growing crops. And that's the story of how the deserts in Saudi Arabia are turning into green fields. Thanks for watching this video. What do you think about this amazing change? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content.